They say the past only finds you when it needs something, a debt to collect, a truth to burn through your present like wildfire. I used to believe I was immune to that kind of reckoning, that my choices had been sealed away in a vault no one could touch. But that was before the morning I walked into the cafe and saw her, and him, and felt the air leave my lungs like I'd been punched by the ghost of a life I thought was dead. I'm not one to beg for attention, but if you've ever felt your entire world shift in the space of a heartbeat, if you've ever been blindsided by the past striding straight into your present, you might want to stick with me. Hell, if you know that particular brand of gut punch, hit the like button in your mind and subscribe to this descent, because what happened in that cafe wasn't just a reunion. It was the opening move in a game I didn't know I'd been playing. It was supposed to be a quiet morning, the kind I carve out once in a blue moon when the board stops chewing at my ankles and the stock price isn't swinging like a wrecking ball. The city was damp from an early rain, the kind that left the streets smelling faintly of asphalt and steel, and I ducked in a La Petite Roux for my usual. A double espresso, no sugar, the bitterness a comfort I didn't have to justify. It's tucked behind a bookshop and a tailor's, a place where no one bothers you if they recognize your face from business magazines. My place, my sanctuary. I'd barely set my briefcase down at the corner table when it happened. Not a sound, not even a shift in the cafe's low hum of conversation, just a ripple through the air, the way a room changes when someone steps in who shouldn't be there. My eyes found her before my mind had even caught up. Emma, my Emma, though I hadn't had the right to think of her that way for nearly 8 years. Time hadn't thinned her presence. If anything, it had sharpened her, chiseled her into something sleeker, more deliberate. Her hair, that impossible shade of sunlit chestnut, spilled over her shoulders in loose waves, and she laughed at something her companion had said, the sound hitting me like a song I'd forgotten I loved. Then my gaze shifted to him, and the world tightened into a knot. Michael Lawson, my ex-CFO, my best friend once upon a time, the man I'd trusted with the inner workings of Reed International, until I found the trail of missing funds winding out of our accounts like blood from a wound. I'd fired him myself, in a closed-door meeting that had ended with threats I won't repeat and a look in his eyes that promised we'd meet again under worse circumstances. That day had come. The two of them sat close, too close for casual friendship, their hands resting on opposite sides of a folder on the table between them. A folder. My instincts didn't need to be told what that meant. Documents. Plans. Information someone wanted me to see, or never see, depending on how this played out. I should have walked out. Should have taken my espresso to go, retreated into the safety of my office with its bulletproof glass and legal team on speed dial. But the gravity between us was a living thing. My feet moved of their own accord, the soft creak of leather shoes against the floorboards marking each step toward them like a countdown. Emma noticed me first. Her smile faltered, eyes widening just enough to betray the flicker of shock before she masked it with composure. Michael's reaction was slower, deliberate. He looked up from his coffee, met my gaze, and smiled. That slow, calculated smile I'd seen only once before, the day he realized he'd walked away with something I didn't even know I'd lost. Alexander, Emma said, her voice level but carrying an undertone I couldn't yet read. Was it guilt? Defiance? Or something worse, pity? It's been a while. 8 years, I said, stopping at their table, my eyes locked on Michael's. And some change. Michael leaned back in his chair, unhurried, like a man who'd already decided how this conversation would end. Small world, he said. Or maybe not. His fingers tapped the folder between them, a lazy, deliberate rhythm. I gestured toward it. I'd say you've brought work to breakfast, but somehow I doubt this is about quarterly earnings. Emma's gaze flicked to Michael, then back to me. Before you get angry, you need to hear everything. This isn't about revenge, Alex. It's about survival. The words landed heavy. Not because I believed her, not yet, but because Emma never used the word survival lightly. She was the one who had clawed her way out of the divorce with nothing but her pride intact, refusing every settlement offer I made, even the ones that could have bought her an estate in the south of France. She'd always been proud, stubbornly so. If she was sitting here with Michael of all people, using that word, something had gone very, very wrong. I looked down at the folder. The edges were worn, the manila surface smudged from handling, but the clasp was new, as if it had been sealed just hours ago. A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor of anticipation crawled out my spine. There's a particular kind of silence that happens when your life is about to split into before and after. This was that silence. The cafe around us carried on as if nothing had changed, steam hissing from the espresso machine, the barista calling out an order for someone named Claire, rain still pattering against the window. But for me, the air had thickened. Every detail seemed too sharp, too loud. The scent of burnt coffee grounds, the faint metallic taste in my mouth, the way Michael's cufflinks caught the light. I pulled out the chair opposite them and sat down, ignoring the way Michael's smirk widened. "All right," I said, my voice calm in a way I didn't feel. "Let's hear it." Emma hesitated, then reached for the clasp. Her fingers hovered there, trembling just enough for me to notice. "Once I open this," she said, "there's no putting it back in the box. You need to understand that. I've been living out of the box my whole life," I told her. "Open it." She did. And as the paper slid into view, and my eyes began to make sense of the numbers, names, and dates, I felt that same cold rush I'd felt 8 years ago when I'd first realized Michael Lawson had betrayed me. Only this time, it wasn't just my fortune on the line. It was my company, my name, maybe even my life. And sitting in that cramped cafe, with rain streaking the glass and my ex-wife's perfume drifting across the table, I realized the strangest thing of all. I wasn't sure which of them I trusted less. The folder lay between us like a live wire, humming with things I didn't yet know but could already feel. Numbers and dates leapt out in a scatter of black ink, each one a breadcrumb leading to some place I probably didn't want to go. My mind began pulling at the threads automatically, cross-referencing half-remembered transactions and strategic moves I'd signed off on without blinking. That's the curse of building an empire. You learn to keep your head above the noise until one day you realize the noise has teeth. Michael didn't speak right away, which I knew was deliberate. He was waiting for me to fill the silence with accusations so he could counter with the precision of a man who'd rehearsed his defense for years. Emma, on the other hand, watched me with a mix of worry and something sharper, like she was bracing herself for the moment I decided she was an enemy. "These," I said, tapping the first page with my finger, "are proprietary market projections. My market projections. The ones we guard with more firewalls than Fort Knox." Michael smiled like a teacher watching a student solve the first part of a problem. "And yet, they're not behind your firewalls anymore. Someone on your payroll is leaking them to Sovereign Holdings." The name hit me like ice water down the spine. Sovereign wasn't just a competitor, they were a predator. A faceless conglomerate with enough capital to gut smaller companies and enough influence to make regulators look the other way. I'd spent years keeping them at bay, outmaneuvering their buyouts and shadow plays. "If they had this data, you could have sent me an email," I said. "You would have deleted it," Michael countered. "Or had legal draft some bland threat before you locked your doors. I needed you to see this in person." Emma leaned forward then, breaking the volley between us. "Alex, Michael didn't come to me. I found him. I was digging into a project I've been consulting on for a startup in the renewable energy sector, and Sovereign's name kept showing up in strange places. Then I found his name, buried in a list of former advisors." She gave me a pointed look. When I asked him what he knew, this folder came out. I should have been focused on the content, but I couldn't get past the fact that my ex-wife had gone looking for my ex-CFO. That kind of coincidence doesn't happen in my world. It's either design or disaster. "And what's in here?" I asked slowly. "Is supposed to convince me you didn't steal from me?" Michael's jaw tightened. "I didn't. You were fed bad intel by someone who wanted me out of the way. The same someone who's now selling Sovereign everything they need to gut Reed International. The worst part was that a sliver of me believed him, not because of trust, but because the math made sense. The embezzlement case against him had been airtight on paper, but back then I'd been too furious to look for anything beyond the obvious. Too ready to burn him before he could burn me. Emma reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive, sliding it across the table with the same care you'd give a loaded gun. "This has the last 6 months of communication between your COO, Sovereign's acquisition team, and a shell corporation in Zurich. It's encrypted, but Michael cracked the first layer. Alex, they've already bought positions in your supply chain." The air between us shifted again, that low-grade tension turning into something sharper, more urgent. If the COO was compromised, we weren't talking about leaks. We were talking about an inside job at the highest level. Michael spoke again, his tone quieter now. If we move fast, we can cut them off before they take a controlling interest. But you need to decide whether you're willing to hear the rest. Because once you do, you're in. No walking away, no pretending you didn't know. I stared at him, then at Emma, and tried to decide which was worse, believing them or not believing them. That's the thing about trust, I said finally, leaning back. Once it's gone, the only thing left is leverage. Michael's smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then let's talk leverage. Emma glanced toward the window, her posture tightening. We might not have time to talk. Two men just got out of a black sedan across the street. They'd been watching us since you sat down. I didn't need to turn around to know she was right. I could feel it, the prickling weight of someone's attention, the way the air gets colder when danger walks in. Michael reached for the folder and snapped it shut. We should go. Now. For the first time in years, Emma's hand brushed mine, not in affection, but in urgency. Alex, please. Trust me just enough to walk out that door before they walk in. And against all logic, I did. We didn't run. Running draws eyes, and in my world, eyes are as dangerous as bullets. Instead, we moved like three people who'd finished a casual coffee, though my heart was thudding hard enough to make my collar feel tight. Outside, the sedan idled by the curb, two men in tailored suits standing just far enough apart to look like strangers, just close enough to block the sidewalk. Michael angled himself between them and Emma as we stepped out. Left, he murmured, his voice low enough only we could hear. Don't look back. We turned down an alley that reeked faintly of rain and diesel, the kind of narrow cut-through most people avoided. Halfway down, I heard footsteps quicken behind us. That was the moment I decided. Not about trust, not about who'd betrayed who, but about survival. I pulled Emma closer, guiding her through a side door into the back hallway of the bookshop next to the cafe. The old wood smelled of paper and dust, and the quiet was almost disorienting after the street noise. Michael closed the door behind us, leaning in so close I could see the tension in his jaw. That folder's not the only copy, he said. And whoever's coming for us already knows enough to hurt you, Alex. To hurt all of us. Emma looked between us, her eyes bright but steady. Then we stopped them, together, just this once. I wanted to argue. I wanted to demand answers and keep my distance and hold on to the safety of suspicion. But I knew, with the sound of those footsteps still echoing faintly in my head, that the time for hesitation had passed. So I nodded. All right, together. We slipped out through the shop's front door into the hum of the city, the sedan now gone, the street deceptively calm. But I knew better. This was just the opening move, and someone had already set the board. Whatever came next, I was in it. With her. With him. And for the first time in years, the idea didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like inevitability.